Call the meeting to order. Everyone, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and then remain standing. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We are thankful for this special community, for the time we share together and the bounty of our nation. We are thankful for the commitment of our people who volunteer their time and talents to make our community a better place to live and to work and raise a family. We know that we alone cannot meet the challenges or provide sufficient inspiration without community involvement and the dedication of all concerned to the greater good of the city and all who reside in it. We are thankful for this time and for the place that is Frostburg. Amen.
Amen. You can all be seated. Whenever you're ready, please.
Commissioner Donnie Carter.
Here.
Commissioner Nina Forsythe. Here. Commissioner Kevin Grove.
Here.
Commissioner Adam Ritchie.
Here.
Mayor Robert Flanagan.
Here, Elizabeth. Need a motion and a second to approve the agenda, please.
I move we approve the agenda.
Second. Moving second. All in favor?
Aye.
And also approval of the minutes from our past meetings.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from the council meeting and the closed session. Second.
Moving second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Irvin, you're up. This evening, we'd like to recognize 40-year member of the Frostburg City Police Department, Lieutenant Irvin Buskirk. Irvin, front and center. Remember when?
Yeah, no kidding. Like yesterday.
I know it does, doesn't it? Just a couple of months ago or something. Irvin, this is a Maryland House of Delegates House resolution. Be here by known to all that the House of Delegates of Maryland offer sincerest congratulations to Lieutenant Irvin A. Buskirk Jr. in recognition of your 40 years of dedicated service to the Frostburg City Police Department. The entire membership extends best wishes on this memorable occasion and directs this resolution to be presented on this the 17th day of March 2022. Signed by Jason Buckley, House of Delegates. Kevin?
37 years together, and many an argument, but we loved each other. And I have a proclamation, a resolution from the state of Maryland, the Senate, and it reads, "Be it hereby known to all that the Senate of Maryland offers its sincerest congratulations to Lieutenant Irvin A. Buskirk Jr. in recognition of 40 years of dedicated service as a member of the Frostburg City Police Department and 4 years of active duty service in the United States Army. Congratulations. The entire membership extends its best wishes on this memorable occasion and directs this resolution to be presented on this 27th day of March 2022, and it's signed by Senate President William Ferguson and Senator George Edwards."
Speech.
No speech here. No speech. Thanks for those who came up. Very nice.
Nice showing, folks. Thank you all very much. Irvin? Oh, we're not done yet.
No, we're not done. Nick's got to come over here.
Thank you, Mayor. Lieutenant Buskirk, sir, I have the honor on behalf of all of us at the Frostburg Police Department to present you with this crystal plaque in honor of your 40 years of service to the city and your retirement. It says, Lieutenant Irvin A. Buskirk Jr., the Frostburg City Police Department thanks you for your many years of dedicated and honorable service to the Frostburg community. You have provided excellent leadership while serving with integrity and compassion. Congratulations on your retirement, Lieutenant Irvin A. Buskirk Jr., 1982 to 2022. I have the honor, sir, to present this to you. I can put it back in the case. Invite our department members up for a picture.
Sure.
You guys would all join us for a picture. We'd love to do it with you.
Come on.
All right. There we go. both very much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much, sir. It's an honor.
It's a City of Frostburg Proclamation.
Okay, also this month is American Red Cross Month. The City of Frostburg wants to recognize the American Red Cross. In times of crisis, people in West Marin come together to care for one another. This humanitarian spirit is part of the foundation of our community and exemplified by our local American Red Cross volunteers and donors. In 1881, Clara Barton founded the American Red Cross, turning her steadfast dedication for helping others into a bold mission of preventing and alleviating people's suffering. Today, more than 140 years later, we honor the kindness and generosity of the Red Cross volunteers here in West Virginia, Maryland, all over the country, who continue to carry out Claire's life-saving legacy. They join millions of people across the United States who volunteer, give blood, donate financially, or learn vital life-preserving skills through the American Red Cross. In Maryland, the contributions of the local Red Cross volunteers give hope to the most vulnerable in their darkest hours. Whether it's providing emergency shelter, food and comfort for families devastated by local disasters, like home fires and severe weather issues, and for taking care of those who are suffering from leukemia, cancer, sickle cell disease, supporting service members and veterans along with their families, and caregivers through the unique challenges of military life, helping to save the lives of others with first aid, CPR, and other skills, or delivering international humanitarian aid. Whereas last year, the Central Appalachian region, with the challenges of the pandemic, the Red Cross assisted nearly 650 families impacted by the disaster. They installed over 1,200 smoke alarms, educated nearly 2,000 students in preparedness, education, collected almost 35,000 units of life-saving blood at over 2,100 blood drives, trained over 18,000 in life-saving skills such as CPR and first aid, provided almost 3,000 services to over 1,300 military members, and veterans and their families throughout the efforts of over 600 volunteers. Whereas their work to prevent and alleviate human suffering is vital to the strengthening West Maryland resilience, we dedicate this month of March to all those who continue to advance the noble legacy of American Red Cross founder Clara Barton, who lived by her words, "You must never think of anything except the need and how to meet it." We ask others to join in this commitment to give back to our community. Now, therefore, the City of Frostburg dedicates March 2022 as Red Cross Month to all those who support the American Red Cross, their mission to prevent and alleviate human suffering in the face of emergencies. Our community depends on the American Red Cross, which relies on volunteers and the generosity of the public to perform its mission. Issued this the 17th day of March 2022, signed by yours truly.
I just want to thank the commission. Last year, for our Driving Our Mission campaign, thanks to the support of the city of Frostburg, we were able to buy that new Dodge Caravan for blood drives, which is being used here in Allegheny County and Frostburg every week. So, thank you for that.
Good to see you. Thank you. Commissioners' reports and announcements. Monthly reports of city departments. Can I have a motion and a second to approve the various reports from our city agencies?
I'll make a motion we approve monthly reports of the city departments.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
And finally, then moving to public hearings.
I'll give a quick update on all of the CSO projects the city has going on. The ongoing things right now are mostly in Phase 9. Phase 9B and Phase 9C, which are just between Bell Elementary and FSU, are in winter shutdown. We expect 9B, which is about 75% of the way done, to start at the beginning of April and finish sometime in the summer. 9C will start about April 15th, and that will go through about a 1.5 year process until fulfillment. And then Phase 10A is in the home stretch of design. We expect design to be done in the springtime to get ready to go out to bid. And then 10B is partially funded. We're seeking some other funding, and design is finishing up along with 10C. Design is going on for that as well. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Anybody have any questions? Thank you, Hayden. Appreciate it. Okay, moving on to new business. Elaine?
Good evening. As we discussed last week at your work session, we are in the process of presenting the draft budget for the next fiscal year, which will end June 30 of 2023. While we went over some details at the last meeting, we'd like to provide another overview tonight for the benefit of the public, and I will also highlight the changes that have occurred in the draft budget from the version that we looked at last week to the version that is presented this evening. And those changes are not significant, but I will identify those for your benefit. We will start by looking at the overall summary of the proposed operating budget. This is a condensed summary by fund and department. So the total budget citywide for the year is at about $16.8 million. So compared to the budget that we looked at last week, this is an increase of $65,570. The budget that's presented this evening includes the $1 per hour increase for full-time employees per your instructions, and the related impact that has on other expenses and benefits, such as payroll taxes, pension, workers' comp expense, and the contribution potentially to a 457 plan for city employees. This budget is an increase over the budget from the prior fiscal year, and we continue to see the impact of the ARPA funds in the projects. These are reflected in the corporate fund, water fund, sewer fund, and the county surcharge fund. Just to give a general overview of some of the elements that are in this budget, the corporate fund is sourced predominantly by the real estate tax revenue. This budget is prepared using the same real estate tax rate of 70 cents per $100 of assessed value that is applicable in the current year. The constant yield tax rate was 68.68 cents per $100 of assessed value. So a constant yield tax rate hearing would be required at your next council meeting to approve maintaining the current rate, and that will be advertised appropriately in accordance with state guidelines. We did see an increase in our net assessable base of around 2.9%. In the corporate fund, we are projecting consistent income tax revenue and highway use tax revenue from the fiscal year 22 budget. And we have projected a slight increase in our hotel motel tax revenue compared to the last 2 years as we recover from the impacts of COVID-19 on the tourism industry. Included in the draft budget are rescue plan allocations of $826,000. These allocations show up as a special revenue line in each of the appropriate funds. In the water fund, we're projecting consistent consumption from the current fiscal year, and we're maintaining all the same water rates. Within the water fund, the ARPA allocations are $750,000 toward projects. Similarly, in the sewer fund, we're projecting consistent sewer consumptions and again maintaining the same rates. We continue to have significant funding for our CSO projects from MDE, and we also have included ARPA allocations of $654,000 towards various sewer fund projects. For the CSO and water surcharge, excuse me, each year we recalculate our units that are billed for surcharges. We refer to those as FDEs, or Frostburg dwelling equivalents, for the CSO surcharge and the Piney Dam surcharge. The Bay restoration is calculated in accordance with state guidelines. We refer to those as EDUs, excuse me, or equivalent dwelling units. We saw a slight increase in units for this billing year based on increased consumptions, and all the surcharge billing rates will remain the same. Also in the garbage fund, we have consistent revenue projected because we have no change in billing rates and units are remaining consistent. We will see a few new units added as new single-family homes are completed in the upcoming year. As already mentioned, this draft budget includes the $1 per hour increase that you approved for consideration at your work session. We also have the transition of one seasonal recreation employee that would go to full-time status as of July 1st. And we're projecting increases in most of our insurances. We do have a 7% rate increase for health insurance, and we're currently awaiting our quotes from workers' compensation, property, and auto insurance. A new element in the budget this year as an employee benefit would be a 1% of base pay contribution to the 457 plan, excuse me, if the employees also made a contribution. So while this was included in the draft budget, it would require a separate resolution to actually go into effect at the direction of the mayor and council. So that will be another item for your consideration later. Some of the capital outlays that are included in the budget this year, the significant ones, the roundabout construction is reflected in the corporate fund, as well as the downtown parking lot expenses. In the water fund, we have a significant investment in our water meter project, as well as various water distribution projects, and also at the water treatment plant. There are improvements that are being funded through the ARPA money. Our CSO projects will be approaching $3 million in expenses, as Hayden described the various projects that are either under construction or in design. We also anticipate completion of the Centennial Hill Pump Station in the next fiscal year, and various improvements and repair projects at Piney Dam. So as a general overview of our expenses by fund, comparing the fiscal year 22 budget as amended and the fiscal year 23 budget, you see where the corporate fund continues to reflect more expenses than the other funds, followed by the sewer fund. And as usual, the sewer fund expenses are significant due to the ongoing CSO projects. Otherwise, the expenses by fund are pretty consistent from year to year. This gives you a visual representation of the percentage of each fund's expenses as compared to the total city budget. As you can see, the corporate fund is just about $7.5 million at 45%, followed secondly by the sewer fund, which is about 33% of the city budget. Within the corporate fund, this looks at our revenue sources. Real estate taxes, as I mentioned, are a main source of revenue at about 34% of our total revenue to fund general city operations. We do also have a significant revenue source in project reimbursements and grants at 35%, and that is particularly high this year because of the roundabout construction, which we anticipate the project reimbursement of being about $1.2 million. And then there are other various revenue sources that make up the rest of the corporate fund revenue. Within the corporate fund, looking at the individual departments, you see that public safety is 28% of the total corporate fund budget. The administrative budget, again, this includes that roundabout construction, which skews the administrative percentage slightly, but predominantly the street department, public safety, and the administration are the most significant expenses for the corporate fund. And as we look at total expenses, now this is unfortunately mislabeled. This says corporate fund expenses. This should be citywide expenses. So when we look citywide, salaries and benefits are one of the top expenditures among the city at just over $2.9 million. We have a significant investment in capital projects this year. We also have ongoing expenses that we incur every year for things like insurance, street maintenance, parks and rec maintenance, and debt service. This year, you do see a significant increase in the paving budget. This is paving and street repairs, so this is made possible through the funding from the ARPA projects. The proprietary funds refer to our funds for water, sewer, water surcharge, and garbage. These have to operate similar to a private entity in that the revenues from these funds have to support all the expenses of the funds. So in the water fund, the predominant revenue source is from user charges. The sewer fund also has significant inflow from user charges, but it is funded greatly by the grants, again, for the CSO project and the Centennial Hill Pump Station. Now looking individually at the proprietary funds in the water fund, most of the expenses are incurred at our water treatment plant, which is run by Maryland Environmental Service. That's 36% of the annual budget. We have salaries and benefits for employees, which are about 18% of the budget, and other distribution expenses are at 23% of the budget. When we look at the sewer fund, again, you see more than half of the budget is allocated for CSO projects at almost $3 million. The sanitary commission charges are what we are paying for treatment of sewer. And those expenses are billed to us based on the treatment at Cumberland and the other pumping stations. In the water surcharge fund, the predominant expense is for debt service. We will be paying off one of the largest debt obligations in this fund in April or May of 2023. So the debt service next year would be around $300,000 less than what you're seeing for this current year. We also have a significant investment in the improvement projects at $175,000 through the ARPA funds. And finally, in the garbage fund, you'll see the two main expense categories are salaries and benefits for employees, as well as the landfill charges, which we are projecting an increase in landfill expenses in the coming years. We've seen an increase in the cost per ton, and we are aware of the uncertainties going forward and are projecting continuing high operating expenses as we see the cost of fuel rising that impacts the gas, oil, and grease budget in each of the funds. The other changes I wanted to point out to you in the version of the draft budget that you saw last week and the version this evening is I have increased the highway user revenue projection by $5,700. We received a budget preparation memo from MML on the 11th, and so we used their projections of highway user revenue in our budget. So that is a change from the budget last week. We also included a increase in the police grant revenue of $10,200 to reflect increases that we expect for funding for police body cameras. So you will also see an increase in the public safety budget. We included a new line item labeled police reforms that includes that expense, and we transferred $1,000 from one other line item into that expense. You'll see that new line item in the public safety budget. We were still awaiting information from our insurance broker as to whether the city would be allowed to increase its portion of the health insurance deductible for employees. You had asked me to check into that. I did receive confirmation today that the city would be allowed to increase their contribution from 50% to 75% without it impacting rates. That would include an additional expense to the city, which I'm projecting would be somewhere between $15,000 and $30,000 per year, depending on use of the deductible. So we'd be seeking the mayor and council's instruction as we approach the budget ordinance as to whether that's a policy change you would want to change or not, but that is not reflected in this version of the budget. And the other change that you had instructed me to do was to change the contribution to outside agencies out of the hotel motel tax. We had reduced the total tourism contributions from $110,725 to $95,000, which is presented in this budget. That was a reduction of the dog park down to $4,000. We removed the $1,000 request to FBPA, and this budget does not include any allocation for FSU TV3. So again, we would need any clarification on any changes you wanted to the hotel motel allocations, but those are 3 changes that are reflected in this version of the draft budget. The overhead was recalculated as required according to the Public Service Commission ruling anytime we change other elements of the budget, so you'll see changes in those areas. And there are proceeds from fund balance included as a revenue source in the corporate fund for $81,610, the water fund of $92,595, and the garbage fund of $44,520. That's to balance those funds. In the version we looked at last week, we had left a shortfall. This represents a balanced budget, but it does require use of fund balance in those 3 funds. And there also was a slight modification in the CSO project reimbursement revenue, again, just to balance that fund. So I know it's a lot of information. I welcome any of your questions or comments, and just seeking your further guidance as we work towards developing the budget ordinance we will present in first reading at your April meeting.
Anybody have anything?
Thanks for those pie charts.
Yeah.
Did everyone read the email about the TV channel 3?
Yeah, I did read it, yeah.
Anybody have any thoughts?
It doesn't seem to be to really meet the guidelines for hotel motel.
I talked to the president, and what he told me was there's going to be some changes. Right now, the VP and the provost are talking about changing mass comm to encompass some other things to help elevate the number of students taking those classes, that they'll focus more on your social media, there'll be more computer work, things like that. So I'm kind of iffy right now whether or not we want to proceed with anything at this moment. I think they need to get their house in order first and see what becomes of mass comm. It's not going to go away, but it's not going to be in the same basket the way it has been.
The focus on.
Yeah, so he told me he'd know more probably once they met some more with those folks, how the fall rollout's going to look.
Okay.
So
just hold on.
Yeah.
Hold off on that.
Yeah,
Especially since like we're already streaming our meetings, it just doesn't seem to, it seems sort of like a duplication of effort.
of service, right?
Yeah.
Until you get a good student population again, and then if they need to come out in the field and they need us for goats, so to speak, well,
Yeah.
we'd be here.
Yeah,
That kind of
yeah,
thing,
and we're perfectly willing to help with that.
So I think that request we just table for right now until they
Okay.
get everything lined up. Anybody else have anything?
No.
Elaine, thank you very much. as always.
Yeah. You got a comment on that?
It's tough to read 128 pages of this stuff. So, especially when it comes out today. You have listed here a miscellaneous revenue that goes from 113,000 down to 1,000, and a project reimbursement that goes from 260,000 to 1.35 million. How does that work?
The project reimbursement line item ending in 4306 of $1,350,000, that includes the $1.2 million expected for the roundabout construction reimbursement. And it also includes potential reimbursement for a downtown parking lot new construction.
We need that. Okay. What is the 457 contribution?
The 457 is an alternative savings plan. If you're familiar with a 403B or a 401k, the 457 is the plan that's available for government workers. So it's a pre-tax savings opportunity for employees, supplemental retirement, you could consider that. Right now, only certified police officers receive a contribution from the city towards their 457 plan. The plan exists and is available right now for any employee to make voluntary contributions from their pay, but there are no city contributions right now except for certified police officers. So what you see, that line item in various funds and departments would potentially create an opportunity for the city to make.
So is that in place of a 401k?
Yes, we're part of the Maryland State Retirement System.
Gotcha.
So employees make a 2% contribution each pay. The city also has to make an annual contribution. Right now it's about 9.2% that we're billed annually. But this is a supplemental way for employees to save pre-tax above and beyond what the pension will supply at retirement.
You have contributions to tourism that's going from $74,500 to $95,000.
Those are the hotel motel tax allocations that we were just discussing.
Okay.
So they were lower due to the impact of COVID reducing the hotel motel tax revenue that the city receives. So in the last 2 years, we saw a significant decline in that revenue coming in, and the mayor and council approved requests from outside organizations to put some of that money back in their hands, and the rest of the hotel motel tax revenue is used by the city to take care of things that impact tourism.
Okay, all right. Does that include the trolley by chance to get us up from?
We don't have a
Trolley
trolley
hasn't
anymore.
been running.
I know, it hasn't been running for years. I just thought I'd
It's
ask.
long gone.
Yeah, that's kind of what I figured. You have a capital outlay that went from $175,000 to $1.5 million.
In which fund?
Administrative.
Okay. So where you see the revenue source of project reimbursement for the roundabout and the downtown parking lot, we have to show the expense side as the capital outlay. So those correspond, the same elements that are an expense, you have an income, and then there would be additional items. I'll just have to see in particular what those were.
It's the roundabout and the parking lot.
Yeah, so not all of that we would consider to be grant funded. So that's those two elements. In the corporate fund, the roundabout construction, because when we do big projects like that, eventually they become assets of the city. And the parking lot.
Okay. Let's see, under your public works and street, how do you manage to get your communications going from 70,000 down to 6,000?
In the current fiscal year, we had a significant investment in new radios for the street department, the water department.
Recreation.
No. So we had to buy the radios and related equipment. So that was a significant investment that incurred in the current fiscal year. The ongoing expense is not the purchase of the radios, just the
Installation.
the operating fees.
Okay. And the street shop equipment went from $500,000 to $90,000. I get to ask lots of questions.
We purchased a vac truck.
No, it went from $500,000 down to $90,000.
In the
Have you-
current year, we purchased a vac truck, which was just over $500,000.
Oh, I thought that was into the future.
It was just
You
delivered.
misled me.
So
When I spoke with you.
When we had spoken, we hadn't gotten a truck yet.
Okay, all right. And street paving, I'm kind of guessing is from Columbia Gas, going from $190,000 to $600,000.
Columbia Gas is a piece of it, but a big portion of that is coming from our American Rescue Plan Act funds.
Okay. I could probably go on, but I didn't have time to read all 128 pages. Recreational equipment maintenance went from 19,000 down to 5,000. Did we get rid of?
That they include purchase of mowers and things like that. So they are buying a new zero turn this year and do not anticipate needing one for next year.
Gotcha.
They're about 14 grand.
Okay. Salaries are, which I don't understand, went from 40,000 down to 13,000. Did we fire somebody?
In the recreation department,
Yeah.
we plan to transition one seasonal employee to full-time status as of July 1st. You'll see an increase in the general recreation salary, which is Department 180, and a decrease in the seasonal salaries, which is Department 183.
Gotcha. With the garbage landfill apparently closing down, where are we shipping?
At this point, it's still open and is anticipated to remain open for the next year.
It's got to go somewhere.
There's a transfer station in Cressup Town.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you. Sorry, guys.
Miss Van Houten, if you have any questions between now and April, feel free to reach out to me or Elaine via email. We'll be happy to answer them or offer clarification.
Okay, go good.
Thank you, Elaine.
You're welcome.
Okay. The first resolution I have for you this evening is Resolution 2022-06. Last year, you executed an lease agreement with Frostburg State University to lease 59 East Main Street for $1 per year.
But they couldn't afford it.
Unfortunately, they can't insure a building that they don't own. So to be able to do any renovation work to it, it is much easier from both parties' perspective if they just own it. So this purchase would this resolution would transfer the property to the university, at which time all of the processes and procedures the university needs to go through have been completed and they're ready to accept it. But this would authorize the mayor to sign a deed transferring 59 East Main Street to the Frostburg State University for $0. Initially, $1 was discussed. However, that added more layers of bureaucracy for the university to go through. So we lose $1 on the deal. But if you have any questions, based on what the university has conveyed to me, they would expect to have all the approvals in place in late April or May. So this just adds more documentation for the university as they go through that process. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'd ask for a motion and second to approve Resolution 2022-06.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2022-06.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any public comment? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Okay. Second is Resolution 2022-07. As you know, as American Rescue Plan Act projects get prioritized and approved for funding as part of our internal control process, we ask you to approve the projects formally through resolution each month. At your special meeting at the end of February, these projects were prioritized. Water treatment plant system upgrade, that's specifically talking about the IT system. We're at a point that it will not be operational if we continue to try and use the technology that we have now. It allocates some ARPA funds to street paving. It would pay for a comprehensive plan that is required by state law under the Community Development Department. This would allow Hayden to construct a vacuum truck drying bed. This would pay for the replacement of a water department roof and the street department's roof. It would pay for about 15 new trash cans on Main Street, as well as 10 new benches, with some of the older benches being repurposed in the parks. It would pay for a utility rate consultant. Elaine briefly mentioned the debt service changing in the next fiscal year. That and many other factors are just really bringing to light that we need a close examination of what the utility rate structure should be. The fact that we have a Public Service Commission ruling affecting our water rates further complicates that. So having an expert on board, I think, will behoove the city. And then this would also just provide for the engineering services of a new, not really a new salt dome, but a replacement building for the existing salt dome that is in precarious condition. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them or provide further explanation. Otherwise, I'd ask for a motion and second on Resolution 2022-07.
I move we approve Resolution 2022-07.
Second. Moved and second. Any public comment? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
At your work session, I explained that new law, effective February, requires anyone wishing to drive a plow truck or big truck with a trailer that needs their CDL, if they don't currently have their CDL, will be required to complete an entry-level driver's training course to be able to obtain their CDL. And this is estimated to cost about $2,500 per person, in addition to the other costs of a physical and the testing and things like that the city already pays for. This resolution authorizes the city administrator to enter into a repayment agreement with any employee going to take the entry-level driver's training, that if they were to leave city employment by their choosing within the 3 years, they would be obligated to repay the $2,500 to the city. If there's any questions on that, I'd again be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'd ask for a motion and a second to approve Resolution 2022-08.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2022-08.
Second. Moved and second. Any public comment?
Do I really have to go over there?
Sure.
Yes, because we can't hear you if you're not by the microphone.
I'm just going to sit here now. Is this in the budget,
The
reimbursement?
no.
We're not reimbursing them. They have to pay us if they leave.
Well, you still have to
Well, yeah.
pitch it out before you get it back, kind of thing. So I'm kind
This would just be included in the training in the street department budget. I don't know if that's been increased to reflect classes or not. We might need to add
a few bucks.
25. Most of our drivers are CDL drivers, so in the grand scheme of things, it's inconsequential. But it would be best to probably include an additional $5,000 in the street department or garbage department.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All in favor?
Aye.
And lastly, Deirdre Robertson, the Main Street FrostburgFirst Executive Director, has requested a temporary repeal of the open container law on April 30th from 11 a.m. I have p.m. in there, I'm sorry, 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. On the day of the Arts Walk. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'd ask for a motion and second on Resolution 2022-09.
I'll say this is something we've been doing for a couple of years and have never had any issues with this, with the public. So at this time, I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution 2022-09.
Second?
Moved and second. Any public comment? Chief, you good?
Yes, sir.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. And on that,
Commissioners. I have the report for you for the Police Department for the month of February 2022. We had 515 incidents compared to 696 incidents from February of 2021. We had 14 arrests, 59 parking violations, a variety of public service incidents, 14 well-being checks, 18 requests for a police officer, 21 disturbances, 7 motor vehicle crashes, and 79 traffic stops. I think the newest update I wanted to give you was the Park Mobile app. As you know from the press release, and out on Main Street, it's up and running. The newest feature was just implemented today, which will allow users with the app to pinpoint their location by GPS. So Park Mobile just turned that on today. That was the last feature we were awaiting, but it's working really well. It's operationally correct. We've had a few questions, but they were really user errors, just learning the technology and learning to navigate the app and those sorts of things. So it's been a great program so far, and I think it's nice to have the option to pay with a credit or debit card. And it is totally optional. We did just this week learn of some unrelated mechanical problems with the meters not registering certain coins. The company we deal with is resending us the device with hopefully correct programming, so that's on its way, shipped out today. Other than that, I think that's the most information I had, most bullet points, so if I can answer any questions, I'd be glad to. If not, thank you.
How about that ruly crowd up at the Goodwill today?
Oh, that was wonderful. Yeah, the Goodwill store
Notice I
just
said
opened
ruly,
up
not
today.
unruly.
Yeah, she used ruler.
Yeah,
Not
what
unruly.
a nice attendance. Very, very nice attendance.
We're good things. Chief, anybody else have anything for Chief? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Commissioners.
Open public commenting. Citizens of the City of Frostburg wishing to make public comment, the mayor and council should come to the podium, state your name and address for the official record. Anyone? Lisa, this is your last chance. 3 strikes and you're out from my record.
That's okay. Now, I had heard Fox's Pizza or the old Pizza Hut is going to be a Dunkin' Donuts. Is that in the works?
Yes,
The old pizza.
Pizza Hut.
the old Pizza Hut.
Okay, all right. So they have to go through all sorts of hoops and ladders.
It's already went past the planning commission, so
Oh, okay. Do we have a,
I don't know what they're free to start anytime they want to, so I don't know what the holdup is with it now.
They have some demolition to do, they're gonna put in a drive-in window and everything.
okay.
They're
It's a little
redoing
bit of
the,
demolition.
yeah, and they're gonna redo the roof, so on it too,
Okay.
so.
Are they gonna have real donuts or are they gonna bring them in from elsewhere? Because the other Dunkin' Donuts brings them in. I'm
I
just,
think the one in Frostburg will house the bakery.
Yeah, that's the plan, I think the plan was to open 4 in the area and then have a bakery in one of them, so.
Maybe I just made that up. At one point I had heard that.
So you'll be able to smell those donuts cooking up at your house, and
I don't eat that stuff.
they'll just drift it that way.
Anyone else?
Just make sure the old man can get up here. In the winter time like this, I can't exercise. 75 years old. Okay, I'm Terry McKenzie. And 1977, I came to Frostburg, and if you didn't graduate from LaSalle High School in '64, I didn't know you. I was blessed to come here and open Fox's Pizza and went nowhere, but we had 22 good years. You know, on Facebook, if I don't like Frostburg, there's nobody else on this earth. There's no place like Frostburg. I moved to Cumberland for 7 years real quick, and I'm back on it. That's the end of the story, so that's all we got to say. Okay, and just something I want to say, and I wish Matt wasn't here, and I wish the chief wasn't here, because I got to say these 2 guys, and of course our new chief, this is the best that I've ever seen. And I went through 4 police chiefs. Rusty Bevan opened on 17th of December in '77. He was out in front of my pizza shop 4 days, Kevin. This road was closed. We had that monstrous snowstorm. So I've been around 4 chiefs. And for anybody Nick's age to be young yet satisfying the senior citizens of this community. And this is a senior community, no doubt about it. So Nick, hats off to you. Matt, you were just the past chief. And of course, I don't know the new chief, but We all go to bed in Frostburg. You don't have to worry about boom boxes going down the street and guns going off. So thank both of you guys, and I mean it. Okay, real quick, the other reason why I'm here, naturally, is to talk about street repair for our neighborhood. Do we have a plan?
Yes.
And
We
what's
have
the
a big,
plan?
We have a big plan this year.
Yeah. We're gonna get reimbursed by Columbia Gas. So we're looking at a pretty significant $650,000 paving budget this year. Your
Okay.
street is on the list.
Okay, but
Most of the streets that have been tore up are on the list, by Columbia Gas.
specifically,
Yes.
because I'm an old street commissioner, do you have enough money in the budget to pave curb to curb?
Yes.
Well, right now, depending upon oil, as you know, we're dependent on what the
Right.
price of oil is for, I mean, it's a petroleum product. I mean, we've got the list and we know what we want to do, and we know about what the price should be. Same time, Terry, don't pay double for half the work.
Right. But, and that's another thing about the gas company. They were excellent, but as far as what they did, and they helped people and everything. Remember though, folks, I lived on Decatur Street. Drive to Cumberland, see what Cumberland streets are looking like after that gas company left. So it's up to the people at this table to bring this.
Well, you said you moved back here for a reason. I guess it was us.
Exact. Hey, Bobby, it was. I'm going to tell you that right now. I had enough.
Election's coming up.
And I sat there. I know what's going on. And the men and everything there were great. I'm on the board of the Salvation Army. I've never written a check yet for Columbia Gas. So I don't feel sorry for them, guys. We need the money, and our neighborhood should be put back curb to curb. When I went in office in '90, Braddock Estates wasn't paved. We paved that one. When I left in '94, we paved Mortgage Hill. You're an appraiser, Donnie. There's a big difference in a street that's paved and tore up.
Yeah.
You guys do a great job. I love Frostburg. Look at my shirt. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Huh? You got anything else?
I'm just gonna follow up on this comment.
Yeah, can I say good things now?
I
Because you used your three
I only
strikes.
say good things. It might behoove the council to bring in a representative from Columbia Gas next month to inform the public.
We already tried. They declined.
How about NPL?
They declined also.
Really?
Yeah.
I'll talk to him, I know him.
There you go.
Hey, listen, you bake them some cookies and let us know how it goes.
Or go get them a couple of dozen donuts.
Yeah, there you
They're working on my yard next week.
go. Elaine, Elizabeth, Hayden, thank you all. Everybody have a good evening.